Hi, I'm Dix AstroCoach, and welcome to tonight's deep, in-depth look at today's total solar eclipse new moon in Sagittarius. And it's actually happening now. And I'm going to go through the science bit first, and then we will do the symbolic astrological bit. Now, I hope you'll be able to see this, but let me get that round. So it's actually happening right now at this moment. And this is compliments of YouTube via the time and date website on Google. And this solar eclipse, and I'm going to, oh, hang on, it's talking away. Right, so this solar eclipse, it started at 1614 Universal Time. And here in Gozo, in the Mediterranean, that was 1714. So it's actually still going on because this eclipse lasts for approximately 4.5 hours. But it's nighttime here, so of course it's not visible. And just to explain that a solar eclipse, a total solar eclipse, is when the moon passes between the sun and the earth. And it only happens on a new moon. So it can't happen on a full moon because the moon you would see. So it's the moon's shadow that we see going across the face of the sun. And for people living in the southern part of South America and also the west coast of South Africa, and anyone on a ship between there, South America, going through the Atlantic and through the Pacific, would be able to actually see this event. But what about the symbolism? Because eclipses have always been, in the olden days, the kind of, people actually feared it because it made them, I think, very aware that, in a sense, nothing is in our control and that we are at the mercy, if you like, of the heavens as they would see it. Now, interestingly, symbolically, it seemed to coincide with dramatic events that would take place on Earth. It was also often seen as the death of kings. So these are some of the things, the kind of events that can happen around a solar eclipse. But the effects of a solar eclipse from the astrological point of view can last for many months. So what is being set in time now can last for approximately 6 months, which I think is quite interesting if we think about what's actually happening on the world stage, because there's a lot of quite challenging news around. There's what's been happening in the United States in terms of the president-elect. There's Brexit, and whether you are a leaver or a remainer with Brexit, this eclipse is certainly coming at a very interesting time for British history, because now the interesting thing is that Sagittarius is a sign about faith. It's actually about trust. And so it's about divine timing. So somehow, and I found this quite hard to kind of get my head around because my personal feeling, I don't think Brexit is a particularly good idea for actually the whole world. But that aside, what this eclipse tells me is actually that this is an event that has to take place, and that we have to have faith in it's like we have to take this leap of faith into the unknown and trust that somehow it will all turn out all right in the end. I really hope it does. I sincerely hope it does for every country that's involved in this. Because, you know, we've been through enough, as we all know, with the virus this year. Now, interestingly, that comes in to this eclipse a little bit because Neptune in Pisces is making a square to the sun and the moon in Sagittarius. So you've got to think about this. The sun and the moon are obviously conjunct because it's a new moon. And the other thing that's quite interesting is Mercury, our planet of communication, is also in Sagittarius. And he is conjunct this solar eclipse. Now, Mercury is about news, information. Neptune, up there in Pisces, squaring this, which is a hard, challenging angle, is like smoke and mirrors. It can be misinformation, disinformation, not knowing what to believe. So there may be events that unfold in the next 6 months where we're really not clear where the truth is. The good thing ultimately about the fact that this eclipse is happening in Sagittarius, and because Sagittarius is ruled by the planet Jupiter, it is about truth. So I do feel that somehow there is going to be this kind of sense of things not seeming very clear. I was watching the news only about half an hour ago, and there apparently has been a sort of a mutation in the COVID virus, and they've just become aware of this in the United Kingdom. And, you know, I can see how that could create a certain amount of fear, because will it make things worse? Will it actually be better? Does it affect the vaccine? So there's lots of questions. And I think this is because of this Neptune square. Because Neptune creates a kind of a veil of secrecy and mist, and we can't quite see what is the truth. But let's just move on, because there's other events happening during this eclipse which we can't leave out of the equation. Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto, my big boys as I call them, who have been in Capricorn causing all these difficulties that we've all been struggling with for the last year or so and longer. Well, Saturn, who is the planet of restriction, restraint, boundaries, even we could say in a sense the lockdown, because he pulls up the drawbridge and he just goes, enough is enough. Now, he is at the very last degree of the sign that he rules, Capricorn. He's at 29 degrees and 44 minutes. Now, that's incredibly symbolic, because when a planet reaches the end of the sign it's in, especially one of these big outer planets, the ones that take a lot longer to move around the various signs of the zodiac. Now, it is a very definite kind of point in time. So Saturn is bringing endings. So bearing in mind that Sagittarius and this eclipse can be about endings. And we have to remember that this is something that we mustn't be fearful of. Because if things are meant to leave our life, we have to have the faith, which is Jupiter, saying it's because something better and more important, or more that serves you better, needs to come in. And if we don't let go of what needs to go willingly, then Saturn can make it a much more difficult and challenging sort of exit for whatever has to leave. So those are some of the things I just want to talk about, or just highlight with this eclipse. Okay. Now, Jupiter also is already conjunct Saturn. And these two are so opposite in what they mean, because Jupiter is about expansion, luck, opportunity. It's about faith. It's about truth. Saturn is about truth too, but it's about restriction. Take time. Let's look at things carefully. Slow down. And so there's this kind of, if you like, tension between these two guys, this sort of Jupiter and Saturn, at this critical point of Capricorn before they move in to Aquarius at the end of this week, this coming week, And next Monday, and I am doing a live next Monday at the exact time that they are going to be conjunct, which is 1800 here in Gozo, that's Central European time. And I thought, you know, to actually look at the symbolism of these two guys going into Aquarius, they've not been there for 800 years. They've not been together in Aquarius conjunct for 800 years. So think about that for a while. That's really interesting. Now, let's just have a little bit more of a look at our Sagittarius solar eclipse. So we've looked at the science, and as I said, this is going on for about 4.5 hours, so it's still happening. We can go back to our picture and see, let me see what it's doing, if I can get it up here. Here it is, and they seem, oh, it's more or less total. It's more or less total at the moment, but it's a bit difficult to show you. Anyway, let's go back to my notes, because there's another thing that I need to mention about this eclipse, because also we have the planet Mars still in Aries, and he is conjunct a fairly new planet that only came on the scene a few years ago, called Eris. Now, Eris is a dwarf planet, but is actually quite it's like the 10th planet. It's not really an asteroid, it actually is a planet. And in fact, they've worked out it is actually larger than Pluto. Now, Eris, interestingly, she was a goddess, and she was about strife and difficulty, discord, rivalry, jealousy. She is conjunct Mars in Aries. Aries is the sign of, you know, Aries was the god of war, and Mars is the god of war. So you've got this huge energy, and you've got this Eris bit that is kind of like pulling against that. And it's like, because Eris is a feminine planet, so you've got this masculine Mars planet, and you've got Eris there, the feminine, as if somehow the feminine is trying to hold, if you like, Mars back from being too assertive or too aggressive. Now, thank goodness, these two that are joined up at the moment are actually making a nice, easy trine, which is a really complementary angle to the solar eclipse, because if they were squaring it, it could be really tough. But just underneath that, interestingly, we do still have Mars and Eris squaring Pluto in Capricorn. So you can see there's really quite a lot of heavy, dense energy. Now, we're going to be working through this on an individual level and on the world stage, if you like, throughout the next 6 months. And I think it's quite interesting, because if we think in terms of, say, with the coronavirus and the fact that they've started already rolling out the vaccine, I think it's going to be a good 6 months until we can see a clear path through all of this to see whether it's okay. So, and I think there will be a lot of anxiety and fear about in people. I think there will be, there's a sense that people are still going to be feeling very frustrated and restricted by the general sort of lockdown restrictions that are still going to be in place. It's not just going to be like that and suddenly it's all back to normal. It's going to take time. And that's where Saturn comes in. But I'm going to talk more about that next Monday. But I just wanted to mention this Mars Eris thing, because she was also called Discordia. And she would call forth war. And again, I think this links in with this kind of general unrest where the collective are really surging and moving with this sense that something is about to happen. Well, I think what actually is going to happen is going to be a lot better than perhaps the fantasy, because this is Sagittarius. This is about the superconscious. This is about leaps of faith. And I think it has to also be about leaps of faith and faith in human nature. That, now this chart, the actual ascendant for it is Cancer. Now Cancer is the sign of the moon, because the moon rules Cancer, and this is a new moon. But Cancer is also about nurturing, caring, and loving. And for me, because she is the ascendant of this chart, and there is an Arabic part conjunct the ascendant called the part of fortune, which means our collective way out, with all the challenges that this eclipse may bring over the next few weeks or months, our way out is through our intuition, trusting that inner voice and not getting caught up by what goes on in our mind and the little voices that come in and say all sorts of things. And it's also about having that faith. And, you know, when you feel, I always say this to people when I'm working with them, sometimes we need to get out of our own way. Sometimes we're so caught up in the thinking and the doing that we forget to actually just be and trust and have faith. In whatever way you want to have faith or trust, because I think that, you know, everybody is different and we all have our own ways of finding our own inner connection with that divine source. And this is what Sagittarius can be about. So I think we're quite lucky this solar eclipse is happening in Sagittarius. I think that's actually quite helpful, because for me it gives hope. So there may be some real challenging events that happen over the next month or so. When I do the monthly videos, I'll go into that in more detail. January is up there now on YouTube if you want to have a look, because there's some really still quite you know, challenging astrology going on in January. But what I'm going to do now is, I know you want to know how this is going to affect you all individually. So what I've done this time is I've just put some key words down here, because I thought, rather than go into long details about what Aries is going to experience and what Taurus might. So you might want to write these down and just sort of think, well, I wonder whether this will be relevant, you know, to think about it. So here we go. Let's start with Aries. So for you, Aries, what came to me was wake up. Wake up and connect with your higher self. Okay. Taurus. For you, Taurus, what do you need to let go of? And Taurians aren't very good at change. So what do you need to let go of? And if it needs to go, just let it go. Now let's look at Gemini. Decisive changes in your personal relationships, close one-to-one relationships. Decisive, positive changes. Cancer. Right, for you, Cancer, take risks. Take career risks, but don't take health risks. Leo. Leo, it's very easy for you. Don't give up on your dreams and ideals. If there's something you really want to go for it. Virgo. There are opportunities for you, Virgo, and if you don't take them now, they might not come again. Libra. Libra, someone coming through and I've got it on Do Not Disturb. I don't know how that happens. Libra, relationship decisions. Stop overthinking it. Scorpio, if you want constructive change, some risks really are worth taking. Sagittarius, well, of course, it's in your sign. Don't hold back, Sari. Sorry about this. I don't know what's happening there. We've got the gremlins again, but we're nearly finished now. Sagittarius, don't hold back. Be the arrow in your bow and keep your eye on the target. Capricorn, show how mentally strong you are. If you doubt that, it's just a waste of your energy. Aquarius, the time is now. Don't hesitate, or all the opportunity will vanish. Pisces, this is quite a big one for you, Pisces. Massive career breakthroughs. Don't allow financial fears to hold you back. Right, so that was going through all the signs. And as I said, this is really very much about a leap of faith. So, whatever parts of your life you think that might apply to, really kind of work with that constructively. And sometimes it's really important to dream big, and often when we dream big, we can get what we want, but we have to know what we want in the first place. So on that note, we're still in the energy of the eclipse. It's going on for a little bit longer, but I'd like to say thank you so much for coming to watch this live stream tonight about the total solar eclipse, new moon. And if you would like to watch next Monday, it will be a bit earlier. It'll be an hour earlier. So for us here in Central European time, that's 6 o'clock in the evening. But I will be talking about, and it's also the winter solstice. And we have got this, as I say, this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. This really is about the sort of, the dawn of the age of Aquarius actually takes quite a long time. But this is a pivotal point, and especially as it comes on the winter solstice. So don't miss that. In the meantime, thank you so much. And if you would like a one-to-one with me for astro coaching, you can get me on my website. And the address, when this goes on YouTube, is usually just down here at the bottom. Okay, so thanks a lot, everyone. I really, really appreciate you coming. And I will see you next Monday. Bye for now.